Welcome to the Building Web3 podcast. I have my good friend, Dean. He is a high-powered CEO that talks all about yapping on Twitter. So, Dean, we really want to know. All about your background. How did you even get into crypto?
Yeah, so it started in 2020, went deep down the rabbit hole. Basically, a picture kind of March around the COVID crash. Originally started sort of swing trading blue chip tech stocks. So messed around with technical analysis and fundamental analysis and sort of sophisticated derivative strategies for a couple months. And then was thinking, right, this is cool, this is fun, but how can I kind of amp up the risk curve? And then crypto was kind of the natural next step. So read the Bitcoin white paper, went down the classic rabbit hole. The way I was kind of aligned with the thesis, kind of coming from an economics background, so went into the macro and realized, okay, pretty much every fiat currency is about to debase. The dollar is probably going to be the last one to fall, but it's just a domino effect. And then I was like, right, let me actually stack a real store of value. Went into Bitcoin, then ETH, and then kind of dove deep into DeFi from there.
All right, so now we got your entrance. Now, what are you doing these days? We know you're a high-powered CEO that talks about yapping online. So tell us a little bit. Give for the people that are unfamiliar with you. What are you? What do you do?
Yeah, so my name's Dean. I run a crypto marketing agency called FortyIQ. Um, we kind of do storytelling. That's the TLDR. I mean, we're in a very esoteric industry. There's a lot of jargon. The name of 40IQ sort of depicts the bell curve and specifically being left curve because I think a lot of founders and execs and as a result marketing departments overcomplicate marketing. I think they do a lot of strategy and positioning and a lot of thinking, but not enough doing. So we're very kind of left curve, just share your story. We think the founder should champion the brand. So I'm kind of running a company that advocates for that.
And for people that are unfamiliar with the bell curve meme, I'll explain it real quick. So I was fighting with this person online today that was saying like colors don't matter. And I'm like, what do you mean colors don't matter? Like I would call that a very mid-curve take. It's like the dumbest person in the room would be like, yeah, of course colors matter. And the smartest person would be like, yeah, colors matter. And then like some crying like dork in the middle is like, well, it doesn't really matter the difference in colors. And you're like, shut up. Mid-curve take. So for people that are unfamiliar, that's where the meme comes from. So talk to us a little bit. We don't need like a brand story. What's going on? Like I thought we need to read all of these expensive marketing books and bring in outside consultants.
Yeah, look, I mean, they are helpful to an extent. I just think empirically from what's working right now, I could actually ask you, how much time do you spend interacting with brand accounts on social media versus founders, execs, or KOLs?
Well, truthfully, because I run them, and if I didn't run them, I would not be doing it. Because I often want to say, like, guys, like nobody cares about the brand account. Now it's a little tricky, right? Like, because brand, you can build an incredible brand. Like, we don't when we think of Apple, we don't really think of Tim Cook, right? But so you can build a credible brand. It's just a lot harder, is in my opinion. So I'd be curious to hear your perspective on that.
No, I think that's right. I think it's very possible to build a brand account which isn't synonymous with the founder. Like you said, I think it's just harder. So I think the founder championing the brand sets you up for success. And if we think specifically in crypto, and by the way, I think we've just extrapolated this from Web2. So if you look at what Elon's doing with Tesla, I think a lot of people know and have Teslas because they're great cars, but to be honest, mainly because of Elon. Like I would be surprised if people have heard of like Lucid or Rivian, which are great mechanical cars, but no one knows because Elon's not the founder, and I don't know their founders either. I'm just a car geek, so that's why I know them. But same thing with crypto. You've got Mert from Helios Labs, and Helios is an RPC on Solana. I'm pretty sure 99% of the world has no clue what that is, but a lot of people know Mert because he's active online, he has a public presence, and he owns marketing and comms for the company. So I think founders being active and championing the brand has a plethora of benefits, whether that comes through hiring, raising, brand awareness, mind share, pumping a token, which is kind of the end goal, to put it bluntly. I think it's a lot easier to do. And frankly, the reason is people bet on people. 90% of the time, it's quite tough to interface or interact with a brand account. You don't really know who you're speaking to. It's kind of like talking to a brick wall, whereas the founder, you can empathize with them, you get the emotion and the people element. I think the brand accounts that do really well, thinking of like Phantom or Kaito or even Barachain, they try and have that human element, whether it's like left curve or taking a piss out of some things, or having humor. Those are the brand accounts that do well. I think brand accounts that don't are just, hey, here's my product announcement. We have high throughput and we have one more TPS than this other chain. Use our service. Like that's kind of dead.
But first, let's talk about our amazing sponsor, HiMapper, who helps make this show possible. They're keeping maps up to date in a really clever way. All you need to do is drive your normal routes with their smart dash cam installed. No extra routes, no extra hassle, just drive like you always do and get rewarded. Join HiMapper and keep the map fresh for everyone. Yeah, I mean, I don't, even when I'm buying like a laptop, I'm not like, the amount of RAM, I don't care. I'm just like, I like Apple, I'm bought in. So talk to us a little bit about, because actually, I'll give you a little fun fact here. We just had Mert on the podcast. So if you think we're constantly increasing the quality of guests, what does that say about Dean?
Yeah, that's it. I didn't realize Mert was on the pod. He's great. He's a very big inspiration and absolutely love what he's building.
Yeah, so Mert is a very interesting story. Like he's like, I think he's probably top at any given day. He's probably top 3 yapper on social media. So there's so many things I want to touch on. So let's talk about founder-led marketing. So let's say there's a founder here. They're like, yeah, I'm a technical person. I really do care about like the TPS. Like, how do I get my story out there? How do I become like active on the timeline?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think first thing is understanding the plethora of benefits it can give you. I think articulating that is imperative. And once you've got there, okay, yeah, what can you do to be effective? What's going to be impactful for your business? I think there's a big cold start problem, with, okay, what am I meant to write? What platforms? What content is it meant to be? At what times am I meant to post? Are there tools I should use? There's an abundance of questions and you have no clue where to start. So I think leverage your industry friends, leverage your team, find someone who you know that is already doing this and get them to help you. I think a lot of founders are going through this problem right now and they're assuming they have to do it all themselves. They're kind of shooting for 100. I think a lot of the founders are like, okay, I'm going to go all in and fully do this and commit like 5 hours a day, or just do nothing. I think there's a bunch of steps in between and there's plenty of other options. Like you can get an agency to help you. You can hire in-house. You can get a ghostwriter. There's loads of other options rather than just going through this journey by yourself. What I'd strongly recommend is actually getting an accountability partner. So what I did when growing my anonymous account, I kind of niched in DeFi early days, had my own DeFi CT account, and me and a friend co-ran it. And it was basically like every day we didn't post, we shared the account and I would give my mate a tenner. It was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I had to post. Whatever the other days he had to post. If I messed up for whatever reason, I just gave him £10. And like that's one way to do it. You can kind of keep accountable, in a variety of different dimensions, but I think an accountability partner is really imperative to keep you consistent.
All right. Well, let's say these people, they just got funded by Hack VC. They're like, we're sitting on them dollar bills, y'all. And I don't really want to have an accountability buddy with some other busy founder. Talk to them a little bit about like, one, the solutions that exist out there, and two, like, which have you seen be effective?
Yeah, good question. So you've got a couple options. If you've raised funds, you're not bootstrapped, and you don't want to go the accountability route, then look, you can hire. I think you've got a couple options. Hire an intern, like a guy who's just out of college, really deep in CT, kind of spend 10 hours on Twitter and the other 14 hours in the day on Deck Screener. That's like option one. If you can find that unicorn, great, do it. You should also leverage your team if you have a CMO, a marketing lead. So there's kind of a bunch of options if you have a developed marketing team. Where I think people get stuck is they've raised a round, they've raised a Series A, they've got funds, they have 37 engineers and no marketing team and no BD and no growth. So that's like a bit iffy. That's when you're like, okay, there's got to be something else here. So I recently wrote a thread about this. Kind of two simple options are hiring or going with an agency. Broadly speaking, I would advise either trying to do it yourself. That's the best way to be authentic. If you can do it yourself, great, do it. If you can hire for it, great, do it. That's kind of the second option. Otherwise, there are agencies out there like ourselves who will ghostwrite for you, and we'll do our best to help you. But to be honest, I advocate for people to do it themselves, and we help our clients and train and build the muscle for them so they can go out in the big wide world after. And then there's also been scenarios where, they've left and then realized they haven't done it and then they've come back. So like, I think building the muscle is really key.
So let's talk about the do it ourselves option, because you seem to have recommended this one. So they're like, Dean, I'm ready to do it myself. Now, how the heck do I do it? Like, do I have to be writing 7 posts a day? What's the starter pack here? How do I get started on the path?
Yeah, it is hard, and frankly, that's why there's like a business model for us out there. Like, yeah, it's definitely not an easy one to crack. So what I'd say is you want to get a minimum of 1 to 2 posts out a day, and like let's specifically talk about Twitter as a vertical. There's like LinkedIn and Warpcast, and you probably should cross post through different verticals. Like it's quite low hanging fruit, but I mean Twitter's where the target market is for most crypto protocols. And what's kind of working well on the algo right now is minimum 1 to 2 posts a day, kind of 8 to 10 a.m. EST, and then like sort of 7 p.m. EST for scheduling. Again, sort of unknown variables are your specific target market and where they're based. Also depends on like, is it retail? Is it devs? Is it execs? There's some other variables that go into that equation. But think of it, 2 posts a day. Those are the optimal scheduling times. Reply guy is pretty massive. So the TLDR is Elon wants you to spend time and money on the platform. So the really simple thing is if you want to grow, do that. Spend money, get the blue check, get premium plus or whatever it is, and then spend time. Be active producing, be active reply guying. It's kind of those 2 dimensions, and I'm pretty confident with a bit of consistency, you'll be successful.
But like, yeah, Dean, I would love to do that. I've got business development to work on, product. There's like HR problems because I be saying mad things on Twitter these days. Like, what's a guy to do?
Yeah, that's the kind of resource constraint people have. So a little hack, and frankly, this is just our model, and I'd advocate people to try it. We actually have interviewers from a variety of backgrounds, like therapists, psychologists, former Wall Street journalists, and we actually interview founders once a week for an hour. And then from the transcript and recording, you have a crypto native team which draft content. So if you're struggling with the ideation phase, like I think a lot of people just go onto social media or Twitter and they're like, okay, right, I know I need to post something, and they try bucket together ideation and execution. And that's really tough. It just uses 2 separate parts of the brain. So I've got a couple of like hacks. One is speak to your friends, get them to interview you, or just use normal meeting transcripts. Like we're having this podcast right now. I can probably repurpose some of this into written content. People are in meetings all day, interviews, whatever format you want to call it. Repurpose that into content. And then secondly, to kind of abstract that time sink away, have a notes page on your phone. And anytime you're going about your day, if you learn a lesson, if you have a realization, just jot it down on your notes page. Doesn't have to be in the form of a tweet, doesn't have to be fully fleshed out. Just write it down. And then on a Sunday, when you have an hour, transform all of the notes into Typefully, which is a good content management system and a good scheduling tool. And then you can flesh them all out and schedule them ahead of time.
Yeah, Typefully is nice because you can do comments as well. The one I'll give a little people some sauce here is you can send voice notes to Claude and ChatGPT, so you can just tell them things that are going around. So if you're like, I don't really have time to flesh out this thought, but I did just learn a lesson, just give them like the crappy voice note version, and ChatGPT will at least write it down for you. Just be like, hey, just make this as a list for Sunday, and then go revisit that context window.
Literally, I strongly advise that. I think if you're a person who likes to go on walks, do that. Go on a walk, use the GPT voice model, just talk to it. Like don't overcomplicate it. Just kind of talk, waffle, monologue, and I think you'd be surprised with the outputs.
All right. So now we've got our founder posting, and I think you recommended about like 2 times a week. Now, the other thing that I encounter with teams is they're like, I'm posting, but I want my team to start posting. So how can they actually implement something like team-based marketing? Because I feel like, founder-led marketing is very in vogue, but you see other teams like Eclipse, maybe because they can't have a founder-led marketing strategy, but like talk to them a little bit about like how they could even implement like a team base. Like, how do we get the team yapping?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it comes from a place of understanding the importance of a personal brand. And the fact is, personal brands are portable throughout your career. So there's multiple friends that I've spoken to very recently who haven't needed to show a CV or a cover letter, and they've just gotten roles through the brand they've built. And look, I'm not saying if you just create random content, you're going to get hired, but it builds your network, builds your credibility. The content you create tells a lot about who you are as a person. And it's free. Like there's kind of nothing stopping you. So I think getting your team to understand the limitless benefits there are, and again, it being portable, your brand does not die with that company. Whereas the brand account does. If the company dies, that brand account's dead. Touch wood, if you don't die, then your personal account is still alive. So the fact that it's portable shows that it's an investment that benefits the person as well. It benefits the company and the person. So I think due to that dual sort of pronged nature and empowering the team to understand that, I think they'll be able to kind of crack on with it themselves. And examples of people who have done that, just to shout out, like Hype, for example, another marketing agency, they've empowered their team, and I think they've done like an internal competition, and like it's worked very well. The whole team's posting, and you mentioned the clips. We've got Omni, Monad, Berachain. They're all kind of popping off, and we're seeing kind of jumps in mind share as a result of that.
Now, mindshare, overrated or underrated?
Mm, underrated, especially in a bull market. Fundamentals matter in a bear market. They're cool. That's nice and cute. But in a bull market, distribution is everything.
Now, distribution. So you essentially, people have said this before. I'd say like social media is like grown adults fighting for attention. So talk to us a little bit about like we've got now the founder posting, we've got the team posting. We just abandon the brand account? Like what's the steps from there?
Yeah, I think the brand account is important for major product or feature releases. And look, you should still definitely show your tech, and ultimately, you need PMF. And look, I'm not saying tech's not important, it is tremendously important. But the fact is, it's kind of table stakes now. It's a bare minimum. You can't just have great tech and expect yourself to shine through. You need the tech plus the story. And then that equals a narrative, a community. So definitely still utilize the brand account and definitely advocate for that. I'm also saying with a sort of underlying assumption of the economic constraint of time and capital. If I had to force rank it, founder would come first, then brand account. So we shouldn't see situations where you're spending all your time and capital on the brand account instead of not the founder account. So I think just weighting that distribution.
So okay, we've talked a lot about like Twitter. So now we've got the founder posting, we've got the team posting. Do you at this point maybe recommend expanding channels, or is it like, hey, don't dilute your attention and really focus as much as possible on Twitter? Like what's your general recommendation there?
I'd strongly advise looking at the data. So look at your analytics consistently, see what's working, look at your audience, look at your target market, see what's being effective, and that will give you all the answers. I think a lot of the time, data-driven insights will answer all your questions. So you can think about, oh, do I go onto LinkedIn? Do I try a different form of content? As long as you've been posting and got a decent sample set of data, that will give you all of your answers.
And now let's talk about the posting format, because some people are like, well, man, there's a lot to go on Twitter these days. Like you got these like short little pithy, we would call them even platitudes. Then you've got the longer form, maybe heck, they even added their own dedicated video channel. I'm like, Dean, like I hear posting, but like post what?
Do what naturally comes to you. That's the first thing I'd say. Authenticity is what is most sustainable. That's my first answer. Secondly, as what the algorithm is prioritizing right now, going back to Elon wanting people to spend more time on the platform, the longer someone spends on your post and reading it, the more likely it is to perform. So in that respect, longer form articles and long forms are performing better. Threads are kind of dead. Wouldn't advise doing threads. Video, and media naturally is going to take off as everyone's attention spans goes down the drain. So it's very bifurcated right now, where it's like short, pithy, funny tweets. Um, that's what's working very well. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, really detailed, really long forms. Don't kind of diddle in the middle with like a 500 character tweet. I think make it below 280, which is the limit before it makes you press show more. And the psychology there is if you press show more, that's friction. You want to make it like as friction resistant as possible. So make it less than 280 or significantly more so you can attract the longer form readers.
All right. So I think one of the biggest things on social media is that cold start problem, like you were talking about before, where you're essentially posting into the void and you have to bootstrap attention via the reply guy method. What have you found be really helpful in terms of actually growing people's accounts? Because like people do a bunch of this BS, like questing, and I'm not saying it's all bad, but like talk to them a little bit about how they can actually get people to their account.
Yeah. First thing, yeah, don't quest, don't do any random incentivized campaigns. Definitely unsustainable, and in the long run, it's really low signal. And please do not buy bots. Like, yeah, just don't. What works well, and if you're doing that, having that cold start problem, and you're just starting off, this may sound iffy, but just making friends within the industry is what is going to take you from 0 to 1,000 followers. It's really simple. And in fact, I've had to stop using my anonymous account with this role. I've had to create a doxed account, and I've grown that from 0 to 1,000 pretty quickly just from utilizing an industry friends and making new friends. Like your first 1,000 followers are going to be your 1,000 friends, and they're the ones who are going to go to bat for you, who are going to engage because they're naturally interested in you as a person. So if budget permits, go to industry conferences. If not, be in Telegram group chats, be in Discord communities, actually be helpful, provide value, ask, hey, what's your pain point? How can I help? Just be a nice person, and that will funnel through and show in your Twitter account.
So you're saying we should be social on social media?
No, right. I know. It sounds absurd, doesn't
It's
it?
actually, it sounds crazy. It's a very weird phenomenon that you're espousing, but I think maybe the audience can follow a little bit on that one. So talk to us about how to write a banger, because we're on Twitter, you know, I come from money Twitter. So like people are focused on bangers here. Like they kind of throw best practices out the window in Cryptolandia, but I still think they apply. Talk to them about how they can actually write good content.
Mm-hmm. A good post should fit into three categories. Option one, it should help people make money. Option two, it should be informative. People are usually curious and want to know more. Option three, it should spark an emotion. So then that's when you see people doing these hot takes. Those are the three things. If you reread one of your posts and it doesn't do that, kind of scrap out the window. Those are the three buckets. Either help people make money, give them more insights, industry insights, or you should utilize your role. Like whatever you do as a job, you're going to have some specialized industry knowledge or industry expertise. You can literally post about that. Or if you're naturally funny like I am, then just post that.
Yeah, most people say I'm pretty hilarious and handsome is what is the going.
I've heard that. Yeah, I get
rumors
that.
online.
I get that. Yeah.
So
as a common
let's
denominator.
Now, do you come from an ads background? This is where I'm really going to lose all the audience because I'm curious if like you actually advise clients and people to like try to tier out their content, like top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, which is really like only ad speak for people, but it all applies. We got essentially for listeners. Okay, top of funnel is like, you know, things that appeal to everyone. So you're just trying to get views on your profile. Then you're hoping to follow you. Then you're trying to like almost convert them into an action, maybe join your newsletter. And then you're really trying to get them to be like users of your dApp. So do you recommend that at all? Or you feel like that's almost too in the weeds for most of your founders?
Paid ads, we haven't experimented
No,
with.
not
frankly.
even paid ads. Just the concept of being like, hey, when you create content, some of these should be like top of funnel, like a hot take being like, you know, Base and Binance are going to fail. Like, you know, so many people know what Base and Binance, but not a lot of people know what chain abstraction is.
Right. I see. Interesting. Yeah, I think we currently see Twitter as more as a top of funnel tool, and then there are different other platforms which can more strongly convert. So I kind of currently recommend Twitter as a initial source of distribution and top of funnel. But yeah, that's an interesting perspective.
So the idea I'm trying to get at is like, okay, so we brought people, they followed your profile. They're like, hey, I like Dean, handsome guy, gonna give him a follow, cool accent. And then they're like, what next? Do you just keep posting like those three categories of content that you mentioned earlier until somebody's like, you know what, I want to use Dean's DAP?
Well, yeah, I think you should definitely have CTAs in all of your
Mhm.
posts. Like, I think definitely whilst you're going about posting, and I don't want anyone to overthink this, but have like a rough goal in mind. Like, why are you posting? What does success look like for you? What is the goal of posting? Do you want to convert users? Like, if you're a decentralized perps exchange, then yeah, you want to convert users. You want to make them sticky. So at the end of a post, every now and then, have a CTA in there. Don't consistently shill. 90% of your post should be value add. 10% you can shill yourself. Don't be the guy that's always salesy and pushy. But yeah, 10% have a CTA in there for whatever that goal should be.
Now, when you're working with many of the founders, are what's their general like funnel like? Is it they're trying to get them in like users into a Discord, and then from the Discord, it's getting them into a DApp? Like, I'm curious because like if we view Twitter as this top of funnel analogy, and I apologize for the listeners for going too adsy here, where are we trying to lead people to? It's into a DApp eventually, right?
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of the time it's into another platform like a Discord or a Telegram group chat. But frankly, usually the aim for our clients and what success looks like for them is they want to grab more mind share and they want to be associated with a different vertical. So it's more so when someone says decentralized exchange, which founder pops into your head? So it's actually more of the intangible metrics rather than they're like, cool, I want this percent converted to Discord, or I want to see my I don't know, LTV increase, or it's actually less those tangible metrics. Yes, they care about smart engagement, profile conversion, all that, but it's more so like, cool, someone says account abstraction, I'm the guy. Like, I want to get inbound from speaking slots and different conferences. It's some of those and being like more well known to the industry as a whole.
All right, now I got a question. What's next for Dean? Because we've had Dean drop in sauce on all of the ways to grow an account. So what's next for you? Are you like, I'm just gonna keep writing and helping founders grow, or are you like, you know what, I wanna get into like KOL management, or what's next for you?
Well, yeah, look, I mean, I want to provide the most amount of value I can to the industry. I think crypto's done a lot for me and it's really catalyzed my growth personally. And I want to give back to the industry. I think there's a lot of people and little time to onboard. We want to onboard as many people as quick as possible and help them use products that already have PMF. Like stablecoins has a great PMF. Everyone should be onboarded and stable. So I want to help crypto protocols market themselves significantly better. Like I don't want to do this PvP kind of stuff. It's PvE. We want to get crypto well known to the world. Like I think we're at like 3 trillion market cap. That is negligible compared to any other major asset class. I think gold's at 15 trillion. You've got foreign currency markets which are in the quadrillions. Like there's a lot to be grabbed here. And I want to focus on growing the pie. And I think that starts from founders being more active and creating and driving the narratives because they are the core of crypto. They could go work in any random tech company or FANG stock and probably earn like, I don't know, a couple mil as a year or be a random boards everywhere. Like they're in crypto for some reason. Is it because they like decentralization or the permissionless nature? There's some core fundamental belief there. And I want to empower them to share their story so we can help onboard more users.
I dig it. Idea. Well, all of our guests are asked to come up with a startup idea, and I hope you have one. So, essentially, we have a bunch of builders that listen to the podcast, aspiring founders, and they're always like, "What can I build?" So, because you come from the marketing background, you could either give us a building idea, you could be like, "You know what I think is underaddressed." You could make like an agency. What would you build? What would you recommend to the audience?
Mm. What and frankly, this is how 40IQ was created. The first step is speak to everyone you know and ask them what are their pain points. I will give an idea as well, but you got to make sure you're solving a problem. So that's actually something we're going through right now as we expand the product portfolio. And you can just steal our idea if you want. If you get there first, fair play to you. Something we're thinking, something we're thinking of developing is like a 0 to 1 kind of all-in-one service for crypto. Imagine you just start a crypto company. You're like, cool, where do I even where do I even start? Like, do I need to raise money? When do I think about a token? What about my legal entity setup? When you have a token, which market makers to go with, which exchanges? Like, you kind of need a sparring partner or an advisor, whatever you want to call it, someone to help you through this. If you're a first time founder, you have no clue what to do. Like, how do you hire? There's a plethora of questions, and an all-in-one service and someone to hold your hand and be like, cool, those are the guys for XYZ would make everyone's life much easier. That's something to think of. There's a lot of kind of like infrastructure layers there. And frankly, I think if you're the best BD guy in the game, I think you can get there pretty easy.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like kind of like an accelerator. It's a very interesting idea. I mean, yeah, going into the venture space is hard. Much easier to run an agency, guys. Just start. So finally, where can people learn more about Dean? Where can they connect with you online?
Yeah, I mean my Twitter account, which is DeanKD _, I believe, or FortyIQ.com. But my kind of DMs are always open. I'm happy to give anyone my time and see how I can help provide value to them. So yeah, head to my Twitter. Happy to chat to anyone.
Absolutely. Well, everyone go connect with Dean, go connect with FortyIQ. If you are a founder, you probably have a wait list, but apply to the wait list if there isn't one. And yeah, let's continue building the future of on-chain.